morning, good afternoon, good evening to you wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Standard Paradox podcast. Nailed it again. That's 2 weeks in a row. I've nailed the intro. My name is David Hall. I am one of the hosts of this podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I'm joined, of course, as always, by the wonderful Chandler Moon. Connor, how you doing, man?
Dude, been a great week.
Yeah?
Yep, started my workout routine. Back up and going. Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, Club Fitness, 5 o'clock. Join me.
5 o'clock in the morning?
5 o'clock a.m.
Oh, boy. There's no chance of that.
So
I'm fast asleep, mate. No way. Is there even anyone there at that time?
Not really. I was shocked. It opens at 4.
You were shocked about that?
I feel like gym rats are like, bro, let's get there. But I figured there would be more there. There's not.
I don't know, man. 5 a.m.?
5 a.m.
If I'm out at 5 a.m., there better be a darn good reason.
He's like running from somebody or something?
Yeah. Or I'm in a lock-in.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Oh,
you should be asleep at that time.
You know, I should mention really quick. This is the first week we are doing a video element with...
Yo, I wasn't even looking at the camera. That's right.
Yeah, well, don't you don't want to just like stare at it the whole time, make people feel uncomfortable.
Probably should.
So this is our first week doing that.
Yep.
So if you're listening to us on audio platforms, you will not get that. But if you have a way to watch us on video, then come join us. Come say hi. Put a face to the voice, so to speak.
Channel. That's right.
Yeah. If you don't want to look at us, then you just keep doing what you're doing. Right. But we've been having great responses to our episodes so far. We've had 4 episodes so far. This is going to be episode number 5. We did one with the 2 of us. We had Luke on. We had Mackenzie pair, and last week we had 2 weeks ago now. But last episode we had Brian.
Yep, Brian.
Thank you so much for the support on those. If you have been enjoying them, feel free to leave us, reviews or whatever on any platforms. And I'm also really looking to try and get some questions, feedback, whatever it is. So if you have any questions for following episodes, and whether it's questions about anything, really, could literally be anything. Doesn't have to be spiritually based or whatever. Then throw those in there. Message me, message Connor. There's Q&A options on Spotify and stuff. So feel free to whack those on there. But anyway. We do have a third person with us today. It's not just the 2 of us.
That's right.
And it's a very special guest. It's the first blood relative.
Yep.
We got blood here.
Got some fam in the house.
Family. Like, who, what was that? That
Vin
meme?
Diesel.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is that?
The Fast and
family.
Furious family.
Can that be our thumbnail?
You want Vin Diesel to be the thumbnail
one
for
of
the
us
video?
Yeah, one of us is Vin Diesel.
But hey, since this man here is your relative, let you introduce the man himself.
It's powerful. Yeah, so today we have Chandler Moon on the podcast with us today. So, yeah, give it up for Chandler. Chandler is my older brother. Him and I been through a lot. He's funny, gets my humor. We play games. We connect well. Dude, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're joining us for the podcast, man.
Yeah, dude. Awesome to be here.
It's going to be fun.
You had a lot of good picks that you could have picked for me, so just happy I got.
Yeah, I tried.
Yeah, I'm happy that I was to the backup to the backup to the backup to the backup to the backup.
To the backup.
Yeah,
so
to the backup.
Chandler is 23, works at State Farm.
Can I just say, I freaking hate the State Farm commercials.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well,
how
about this? I'll send an email. Now the email's going to get deleted. No one's ever going to look at it. But I'll send an email and tell them.
Yeah, if you could. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a big Jake guy. He just kind of grinds my gears a little bit.
Is it the name or like the face?
It's the acting. It's just a bit cringe,
Dude, he would know. He's
an actor.
It feels like exceptionally forced humor. Especially the ones, you probably know the ones I'm talking about. It's the that was an unexpected twist, plot twist.
Yeah.
At State Farm, something.
Yeah.
I'm like, but it wasn't even a plot twist.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really that unexpected.
I'm speaking from ignorance here, but I wish I would have watched more of these commercials now to prep for our interview.
Dude, me too. No, I wish I'd seen any of them.
Because you're very passionate about this, Dave.
Yeah, every time they come on, I'm like, ugh. No offense.
No, like let me
Don't let me put you off going to
the
Chandler for State Farm
the
insurance.
percentage that they listen to me on what to do with our commercials is less than 0. So like I'm not offended at all. They didn't ask my opinion. They don't care about it. So
And that Jake guy, man, he's raking it in.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, dude.
Like I can't even fathom how much money that man's making
I
to
mean-
not be funny.
Regardless of how well the commercials were produced, like everyone knows the line Jake from State Farm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like marketing wise, incredible.
Yeah, no, they did
Great
a
job.
They did a really good job.
Jake from State Farm. Any person in a red shirt and khakis, Jake from State Farm.
Yeah. You know, speaking of video games, I'm a fan of. You mentioned video games like a minute ago.
Yeah.
So,
That's where
that's my.
I was like Jake from State Farm. Anyway, so video games.
Well, this is how my brain works. I remembered specifically you said video games a minute ago, so now I'm just gonna pull it out of the hat. Bear with me. This is gonna connect.
Okay.
So I used to play. Big fan of the NBA 2K series.
Okay.
I'm a big basketball guy. And in NBA 2K22, the past 3 or 4 years, the microtransactions and just the obvious advertising has gotten more and more egregious.
That's what I
And
heard.
in the latest one, they have this like city, which is like a big open area, kind of like a hub world where you can go to and from to do certain different things. And they have Jake from State Farm in that area. And you can just go up to him in the city, and you have like a 3-minute cutscene that plays, and it's basically just a giant State Farm ad. And at the end of it, you get like a State Farm shirt that you can attach to your character.
I'm surprised that State Farm would have done that. I mean, we jumped into the marketing game a little bit more, but they're not huge marketing people. Like their biggest idea is like, hey, we're going to have agents that are the front line for people to look at. We don't have to spend as much money on marketing. So that's surprising to me that we put something in a video game.
Yeah, I bet it's like it's not even inventive or anything. It's just Jake from State Farm who you run into him. He's like, hey, and your character's like, hey, it's Jake from State Farm, and it's so cringe.
Dude, every time we play video games, somebody's playing a game, and you ask them, hey, what are you doing? And, that would be so weird for someone to be like, oh, I'm hanging out with Jake from State Farm, NBA 2K. Like, what?
I'm stuck in this freaking Jake from State Farm cutscene.
You know what would have been better is like he was one of the like a boss or something. Like you had to go beat him to get that shirt.
a
He's
dunk
just
contest with
incredibly
Jake from
hard to beat, like on a one-on-one
He's like just
game.
pulling off 360s and stuff.
Yeah.
Dang, that
How
would
are
have
you
been
making
good.
those half
See,
quarters,
now
man?
this is why you need to get in touch with State Farm and
Yeah.
tell them.
Like,
Because that would have been better.
Yeah, like I mean, if let's be honest, like you put in a 3-minute cutscene in a video game, you didn't ask a single person who plays video games, hey, how could we reach the audience that is
Right,
playing video games?
Right.
The whole business model of NBA 2K right now is, like, very controversial.
Oh,
Is
it's
it
so
well,
egregious.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's EA run, isn't it?
No, 2K.
It's 2K.
Yeah.
So 2K doesn't own EA.
No. 2K
Or
is
EA
its
doesn't
own.
own 2K.
No, 2K is its own entity, its own
Oh.
publisher.
I don't know.
You would think, right? By the way that's going.
You're going that way in a sports-related game. I don't know. Do you think is 2K just trying to stay afloat then in the because we're seeing a lot of gaming companies that are just they're being bought out by these bigger ones. So
2K recently just bought the rights to Tiger Woods. Interestingly,
Mm.
so like they're
Like to use?
Yeah.
Yikes. Okay.
Yeah, between them and EA, they're kind of just competing
That
in the
is
sports sphere.
a pretty
And they're bringing
substantial
back.
purchase, I think.
Oh wait, that may be EA. Someone's bringing back NCAA football as well.
I did hear that.
EA is. I thought it was EA that was.
Yeah,
bringing
it probably
back.
is.
Sure. Yeah.
Probably is.
So Chandler, your story, man. You and I kind of grew up a little bit, so they kind of
Yeah.
heard my story at the first episode here. But
Yeah, what are we even talking about?
so why don't you kind of share with us your background, like some of the high points of why Chandler is Chandler today.
Yeah. So we grew up in a small town in Alabama called Woodland. Lived in Woodland till about 7th grade. Moved to Heard County. We had our parents fought a lot, and so precaution to the story is like I love my mom and dad more than anything else in the world. Like I'm not bashing. But yeah, our parents fought a lot when we were little. So we struggled with that a little bit growing up, just trying to deal with that. There was also we were Southern Baptist, deep rooted. So like, like you're the world and life that you live in is either a blessing or a curse from the sins that you've committed.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the story that we grew up with. Just the churches that we went to and everything like that.
Interesting.
So most of us growing up, parents fighting, is also me blaming myself for like, well, I shouldn't have lied at school, or I shouldn't hang out with this girl, or done this, or because like now my parents are fighting.
So you were in a situation where you were thinking that you were causing the fights between your parents because of mistakes that you've made, even though they weren't related?
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's because you said because of things that you'd been taught growing up?
Yeah. Like, I mean, full on believe that my sins would, like, anything I did wrong in the eyes of God, I was going to be punished for in real life.
Do you hold that belief still now?
No.
Okay.
Got it. No, like, I mean, like, Job, we're going through Job, me and Brian, a buddy of mine that we play games with too. And Job's a plain point to like that's not how the world works. Like you're not punished for the sins that you committed. It's just like you're not blessed for some of the good things that you do. No, there are some things that transition, but no, like I don't believe that I'm punished for things that I do wrong nowadays.
Right.
So what was that for you then? Like you said, that's kind of how we were brought up. But tell me more about that shift, maybe, or that the progression into the mindset shift for you of like, it's not about those things.
Oh, it took a while. Took a really long time. So, we of course we get to our aunt and uncles who they don't fight at all. Huge flip side of that. And kind of keep going down into my life. Like I don't actually pull that connection until college. Like even going through some of the stuff we went through in high school, I thought that like my sin was going to make a difference on like punishment in the real world, all the way up until freshman year of college. And then I think freshman year of college, maybe it was senior year of high school, somewhere in that transition period, I started diving into like, what does it actually mean to be a godly man? And I'd been looking into that a while back because I'd been dating a girl who I thought was big Jesus follower. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to impress her, so I'm going to try to be whatever God wants me to be. And so I start diving into that a little bit more. And then like I said, senior year, high school, freshman year of college, my eyes kind of open a little bit more. I see like, hey, it's not really like, it's not who you are, because you're not ever going to be what you need to be.
That's for sure.
And you're not going to make an impact on your life in that sense. Like sin is not like what you've done wrong is not going to be like the determining factor of, like I'm bankrupt or because of a mistake that I couldn't control, or like I crashed my car, or my parents are fighting, whatever it is. Like, so I kind of caught that from, I don't remember where I caught it from. I think it just kind of clicked with me one day. Like, you're not in control of that. That wasn't your fault. You didn't do that. You didn't put yourself in that situation or that place. And then it just, it was like a relief, man. Like to know that you're not in a bad spot because you did wrong things.
I can't even imagine, because I was never taught that. Growing up, that if I made a mistake, obviously, if sometimes your mistakes can impact other people. That's, that's life.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to deal with that.
Yeah.
But I was never taught that because I sinned, I didn't grow up a Christian or whatever, but, if I did something wrong, then something bad that happens to somebody else is because I did something bad.
Yeah.
Like, good Lord, I can't even imagine how stressful that would be and how much pressure that puts on kids, especially. Our stories intersect somewhat in regards to parents, divorces, arguments, this, that, and the other. There are times when you're a kid and you're in that situation, you wonder if you're doing something wrong. But if in that situation I had also been wrestling with, oh God, I shouldn't have told that kid to F off or something at school because now my parents are fighting.
That's a whole nother
You know,
level of stress.
exactly.
Right?
It just like it's just gonna exponentially build on top of one another until the point where you're just gonna explode.
Yeah.
Like I can't even imagine what kind of stress that would do to a kid.
It was tough. Like, and not to say like other people don't go through stuff and it's not tough for them, but I mean, like, yeah, like you're this 11-year-old, 10-year-old kid, and like your mom and your dad are hitting each other and you don't know what to do. On top of you not knowing what to do, like, hey, is this something that I did? Is there something I'm doing to make my family deserve what they're going through?
Yeah.
Which it hit me harder because like being the older brother is you take care of your younger siblings regardless of what you're going through. Like your brothers they're to be taken care of. So like on top of that, like there's also now my brothers are going through this because the stuff that I've done.
So how much older are you than everyone else?
So I'm a year older than Connor, and am I 3 years older than Jacob?
Kind of like almost, yeah.
Yeah.
Like 2 years and 9 months or something.
2
like
years
that.
and 9 months.
I see. Your parents had you guys in pretty quick succession then.
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah. And then, there's us that are the blood brothers, but and we also have our little cousins. They're pretty much brothers to us too.
Max and Major.
Max and Major, yeah.
And we have a stepbrother, Dalton.
Yeah, and we have a stepbrother, Dalton.
So did you feel the pressure of being the big brother during everything?
Yeah, I mean, there's still some moments that you feel the pressure of being the big brother. Like you take care of everybody. That's just what you do. But yeah, like definitely in those moments, I felt the pressure.
Did you feel it more when? Because correct me if I'm wrong. Just putting the pieces together here. Your parents split and you guys moved in with your auntie and uncle. Is that right?
So the timeline goes, we started off Woodland, moved in with our aunt and uncle to go to Heard County. Stayed with them for a little bit. Something had happened in that transition period where we were staying with them to go to Heard County, where our mom had kind of been like, you need to be with us more than you need to be with them. And I preferred it at our aunt and uncle's because it just seemed a little bit calmer. So I think that upset her a little bit more. So then they were like, okay, well, we'll move to Heard County. So they had ended up moving to Heard County and buying a house after our grandfather passed away, left them some life insurance money. They bought a house. We moved back in with our mom and dad. We had some stuff going on, a little bit of stuff during that. Like I had dated a girl, done some stuff with a girl. My parents blew up on me. I tried to leave, which made it really like that. I mean, it made it hard on my family because my grandparents and my aunt and uncle were helping me. It made my parents upset. That caused a big divide for our family. Again, felt like that was completely on me, and still to this day, like I feel like there's a little bit of tension between my dad and my aunt, and they've done a very good job of mending that.
They're brothers and sisters, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's still a part of me that's like, hey, like that tension wouldn't be there if you didn't do what you did. But it was just, like I was a stupid high schooler. I just didn't.
Well, I mean, like, and here's the thing too, like from my perspective, that was tough. Because of the culture that we were raised in.
Yeah.
And to me, that was probably one of the main driving points for so much tension was you have to, like, I didn't side with Chandler in this. So when all this was happening, I took my parents' side because we had to, like, I felt like I had to make a choice. And in the time I was at, which I regret so much, but the time that I was at, the season of life I was at, I was more pharisaical. The person who you've got to live by this rule book of our culture of like, don't drink before you're 21 because that's what God wants you to do. No sex before marriage. Don't go to parties. Those kind of things that you feel in the Bible Belt of like, you don't need to do that. Yep. And so when those issues arise, I couldn't be associated with that. I couldn't. So I left my brother out to hang out, and so I get that feeling of like, God, this is my fault. Like this is, what could we have done? There was a season after that, Chandler, where you and I didn't talk
Yeah.
for, gosh, man,
I mean,
couple months.
Yeah, it was months.
Yeah, it was just like we had weight training together. Wouldn't even look at each other.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah,
like
completely
lived with
divided,
each other and all that, and like it just separated because of that
The mentality.
of like we can't tolerate sin, and we can't tolerate brokenness. On it, like nobody was equipped to handle it,
No.
and so that mentality fueled the fire of division for sure. In those moments.
That's crazy. I mean, were your friends and people around you aware of, what
Yeah,
you guys were
were.
going through at the time?
I mean, I think to some extent they were. Our friends did a good job too, because we had friends that were between both of us. They did a very good job of kind of like keeping the peace, and like, whoever was friends with me more would hang out with me more, and then whoever's friends with Connor would hang out with them. But it's not like they picked sides and said, hey, like, I'm only hanging out with you. Don't worry, I'm not hanging out with your brother.
Right.
So I think the one of the parts of that caught me off guard was, I mean, Connor was, I don't know if it just hit him or what, but like, we had Spanish class together too. And Connor just came up to me and said, hey, and I did, like, it threw me off. I did fully expected that we would never talk again. And he just, I can't remember exactly what he said to me, but it was just like, hey, like, you left this, or you dropped this, like, just gave it to me. And I was like, okay, maybe we're back. Maybe things are normal.
That was gonna be my next
Spanish class, man.
I was gonna say, like, that was gonna be my next question. Is, I mean, you guys are talking now.
Yeah.
So like, how did you reconcile that?
I think that was something. I don't know what happened during that time period, but there's something switched.
I mean, when you get to those moments, man, like you have to make a choice, like the same mentality, but a fresh, healthier mentality of like you have to make a decision instead of it being within the culture. Like the Bible Belt culture is so toxic. Like there's good things, I guess, that came from it. We have churches everywhere, but the Bible Belt mentality around legalism and those kind of things is just brutal. And so if you have to make a decision in that culture, in that moment, dude, it's not going to be a good one.
It's not.
But over time, I think it got healthier. Like our interactions, I think at least for me, I started to realize like what I was losing in those moments, and it wasn't worth that. And so I remember I don't remember that pivotal moment, but I do remember like Spanish class was a lot of fun.
And I mean, it was a while back, so there may have been something before that that had just built up to it. But I specifically remember Spanish class and expecting Connor to just not ever say anything to me again. I'm like, okay, well, he just talked to me, so I guess this is it.
It was awkward.
Sure. Yeah, no, there was a lot of that high school transition period where it was awkward.
And then we get into college, and like we start realizing what it's like to actually make some of those big boy decisions, and stuff, and how not easy, but how much simpler finances can be, and how much simpler relationships can be, and what healthy marriages and relationships look like. And we got in life group together, and now it's like inseparable. Like there's nothing, like, because you have that moment of like everything, you lost everything, and then now it's like ain't no way we're going back to that spot, because ain't none of that worth it. Like we can have a conversation now that's real and authentic, and not get to that place anymore.
Was there something in, because Chandler, you were talking about getting out of the mentality of the like you said, like the Bible Belt mentality of and like you were saying as well, Connor, the more pharisaical nature of things, being very judgmental, looking outwards instead of inwards a lot. Was there a moment for either of you where you kind of, especially you, Connor, because Chandler, you said that you were, this is what kind of caused this stuff in the first place, was you moving away from that mentality, Connor, you being stuck in it. Was there a moment for you, Connor, where you kind of decided, hey, this is not the way I want to go? And did you, unify over that? Or was it just, did you never really even talk about it?
You want to hit on your, like, where you think the unification came from, and I'll hit on mine a little bit?
There had to be, I will.
Okay.
unification is going to be more difficult for me, but I think the pivotal moment for me in my journey was, and I hope she's listening right now because she'll know the situation. But there was a girl in my physical science class who called me out on something. So we were at lunch, and I was leading FCA at this point. FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, is a big thing in our high schools. I don't know if you know this. That's why I'm saying
I don't.
So FCA's Fellowship of Christian Athletes is a big organization in the schools to help promote biblical discussions around athletics. And so ours had become more of a student body thing instead of an athletic thing. And so I was heading it up. There was this moment, me and another guy were sitting at a table away from everyone else trying to be biblical scholars. And I remember looking at one of our FCA leaders and wondering why she was eating with people who partied all the time. Mm-hmm. And legitimately wondering why is she doing that when she knows she's an FCA leader. Like, she shouldn't be doing that. We should be portraying ourselves as higher than others spiritually, so that they know that we're real and know that we're authentic. That's what I wanted them to know. And so I made eye contact with her, made eye contact with her friend, and her friend had the same class I had during lunch. So we get back after lunch, and her friend calls me out in class to the FCA leader and says, "Hey, one of your student FCA leaders was being very judgmental at lunch." And, like, I'm there, and she named me. She said Connor, and I was like, "I'm over here." I guess she had forgotten I was in the class, and then I dismissed it, and I was like, "No way, I was doing that." But in that moment, I realized, man, this is not supposed to be this way. I shouldn't feel guilty for doing God's work, what I thought was God's work, and I did. I felt really bad about it, and so in that moment, it changed my mentality of, like, how I should even invite people, how I should be, how I should portray myself, and I still wrestle with that, but that was a moment for me before, Chandler and I think reconciled, but having that mentality of, like, bro, you got to be humble, you've got to be real, you got to be authentic, you can't be, like, I struggle with the same thing this person's struggling with. I can't act like I don't, like, it's just not the way it's supposed to be. And so I think some of that mentality shift allowed me and Chandler to reconcile and be and unify a little bit, because I swallowed a lot of my pride of, like, I don't have to prescribe to the Bible, like, forget all that. Like, y'all go have your church service where you're holier than everyone else, and then me and Chandler will make disciples some other way. So yeah, that's my perspective on that a little bit.
Yeah, and then mine is I think our unification comes from I got back in the groove of things with our family, but our parents did at one point sat us down. Our dad was like, "Hey, like, it's time. We're getting a divorce," and we did move in with our grandparents, and some of that was we were living. I mean, Connor was. Our grandparents have a big house, but it's not. I mean, we're not billionaires. So Connor was sleeping, like, over there at that wall, and I was sleeping at this chair. Like, we were that close, room-wise. So that was some of it, was, like, we were closer again. We were talking again. But one of the biggest things for me was, like, I think I still had the red Kia. No, I didn't. No, it was in Brian's Malibu. We were listening to, we'd invited you to come at, did I say bronze?
Brian.
Oh, I thought you said a bronze Malibu.
No.
Oh, wow, that's so specific.
Yeah, I think it was in Mom's Malibu. We listened to, what's that rap song that used to be super popular in high school? You remember what I'm talking about? Something freestyle.
I don't.
Sorry. I remember getting in the car and thinking, God, if Brian plays this song, Connor may lose it. And Brian plays the song. Like, we're going to Carrollton. Like, we invited Connor to come with us, and I was like, Connor's going to lose it. And Connor just starts laughing. Like, he's laughing at the lyrics of the song. Like, he's not like he's, like, bashing it. But, like, some of it made sense. Like, one of it is, like, I'm the king of it, crowned by the toilet. Like, that was one of the lines. And Connor was like, how funny is that? What is this dude doing? Like, he's got a crown by his bathroom toilet. And I was like, it's like, there's something going on that, like, Connor he's changing. And he's getting to where I can have my friends hang out with Connor, and we can hang out with Connor. And it not feel like, like we have to be these perfect fit-in Christians to do that.
Yep.
And then, of course, like I said, like, after that, we moved in with our grandparents. for a little bit before Nikki and Shane got their house in Heard County, and I moved back in with them. But even after Connor stayed with our grandparents, I moved back in with Nikki and Shane. Like, something happened in that time period of us being in that house together. Like, I think that was the pivotal moment of, like, this is my family, and I'm going to keep my family.
Yeah.
Together.
And it was more so, like, I know y'all have a stronger connection to Nikki and Shane than I do, but because of that, I stayed back with, our grandparents while y'all moved in with Nikki and Shane, with him and my little brother, Jacob. But I think that was pivotal for us as siblings, us three, of, like, why we're so tight now is that moment. So it was good for the whole family, but specifically, like, us three had been through it, no one else besides our parents. And so we knew the ins and outs. We knew what we were feeling, and we went through the transitions to get, like, that was a good moment for us to get tight.
It was.
So
How did you guys deal with taking that kind of baggage to school and stuff? Did you keep it very much internalized? Did you share it with anybody? Because for me, I grew up in a pretty abusive household. After my mum and dad got a divorce, I didn't speak about it to anyone. No one knew. I was very good at hiding stuff, to the point where I hid it from authorities. When they asked me about it, I was just, no, everything's fine, everything's cool.
Yeah.
Lied through my teeth. Because for some reason that's how I dealt with it. It was probably a bad decision, but that's how I dealt with it. Did you guys do the same? Was it different? How did you deal with that sort of thing?
I didn't. I mean, there were days that I just broke down, just like, hey, like, I'm just crying in the middle of class, like, I'm just tired of it. I just want to be done. There's got to be an easier life than this. So I can flat out say that I didn't. I mean, and some of it was, like, it was hard. I don't know. Like, it's always been kind of hard to control. Like, in high school, I remember it being really, really hard to control my emotions. And now there's still some of those moments, but, like, in high school, I was not very in control of my emotions. So, like, some days, no, I just broke down, just cried in the middle of class. Like, it's okay. I'll get back through it, and we'll be okay.
Anyone ever ask you about it?
Yeah. I mean, I had plenty. I mean, but most of my friends knew what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the dudes that we would hang out with at football knew what was going on.
yeah.
And the coaches knew. I mean, all the coaches knew.
Okay.
So, I think they were aware. So it wasn't like, why is this random kid crying in class? Like, I mean, we were both decently popular dudes, I would say. So,
I definitely was way too prideful to do that, which I hate now, because, like, you don't let anyone in, like, you don't take that guard down. That image is especially in those moments that I was going through, image was everything. And so I didn't even entertain the idea of letting people know. Like, I remember that moment we walked into class after that late night. We walked into school, and it was like no one knew what we just went through. And the receptionist do you remember this?
Yeah, I do.
The receptionist at the desk.
So when was this?
This was after a big moment at our home where things just blew up. It was chaos, and it was crazy. We were up real late.
I don't think we slept at all that night.
I don't either, man. And there was this moment we walked into class, or we walked into the school to check in, because our uncle had let us sleep in a little bit because it was such a late night. And we walk in late, and the lady's like, y'all need to get here early. You need to realize, like, you need to be on time. And which she had no idea what we were wrestling with. But it was that moment of, like, looking at Chandler, like, do I punch her? Do we punch? Like, what do we say in this moment of, like, hey, you don't even freaking know what we were going through. And so it was that, but, like, I mean, we knew that, Shane worked at the school, so we had to walk a line there. And so there's just some things. It's, for me, like, I wasn't as vulnerable as Chandler. So that's why Chandler has tight friends now that I don't, because of those, I think, those vulnerable moments of, like, that those relationships were built where I kept it to the superficial and more outside kind of image. So,
How did you deal with it then, Connor? Like, did you just or?
Yeah. So I mean, yes and no. A lot of it I just bottled up. Like that that's why I love that line from Talladega Nights with Ricky Bobby, where he's telling that guy. If you watch Talladega Nights,
I think maybe once.
oh my god, it's one of my
You
favorite.
just
films.
take that and you bottle it up real deep inside of you.
Yeah.
Don't you ever let that out again.
That's right. I did a lot of that for what was going on, just because of that image thing. So I bottled it up, just kind of put it down, and then same thing I kind of do today is like I just use that as fuel to work harder. And so not only was this a moment where my image was everything, but I had now an opportunity. My back was hurt, so I had an opportunity to put energy into something else. And so I put it in the church, which was a blessing. Now it's probably the wrong, reason to put it into church, but I did. And so I learned a lot about theology. I just watched YouTube videos and tried to debate people and try to figure out why people believe what they did. And then also tried to be a Pharisee and tried to be the best Christian Heard County had ever seen. And so, so I think a lot of that fueled some of that motive to, I don't want to be like what I grew up in. I don't want that to be me. And so I'm going to be something better. I'm going to be something different. And so that's kind of how I processed it, if I'd even processed it. So,
What about you?
I mean, some of it was I did talk to people, but I also had that mentality of, and I flat out told myself this: you will never live the life that your parents live.
Mm-hmm.
You will be better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what fueled me. Not necessarily to get through college, because I had a pretty good job. Another uncle of mine hired me on. Been very, very gracious to me for most of my career. So that's not really what got me through college. He is, but it is what got me in the mindset of you're going to go to college and you're going to have a good job, and you're going to find a good wife and you're going to have great kids. Like all I've ever wanted to be since we were little is I just want to be a good dad.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to make sure whatever my kids do, they don't go through anything that I've ever went through. They have a very perfect life. And same for my grandkids, like, or my nieces or nephews. Like, if they're going through something that we went through, like me and my brothers are gonna have to have a talk.
physical talk.
Yeah, physical talk. Like, it is the mentality of, wait, it doesn't matter what it takes. You're not gonna end up like that. You're not gonna go back to that situation.
And you had that mindset pre, meeting, because you're married now, right?
Yeah.
You had that before you met your wife?
Yeah. I had that before I met my wife Hannah. We actually, it's so funny because, I was thinking about like when Conner set me up for this, what we talk about if I did talk about my story, because like Hannah is just like, she's always been great. I don't know if I ever told you this, Conner, but me and Hannah actually, we broke up because I didn't want to be with Hannah because she was she was a good Christian girl.
You felt inadequate?
Yeah. Well, not even that. It's just not what, like in that season, my freshman year of college, I was
That's
like,
what you didn't want.
Oh, I don't want this. Like, I don't, come on.
You didn't want somebody holding you accountable?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I told Hannah, like, I just gotten out another breakup. But I told Hannah, like, looked her in the eyes, like, hey, I think I might still be in love with someone else. And dude, I'll never forget it. Hannah, like, was bawling her eyes out. She was
Were
like,
you lying?
No, I was completely serious. I'd just been in another relationship.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, like, hey, I may not be in love with you the way that I think I'm in love with someone else. And, like, Hannah was like, I don't care.
Wow.
And, dude, like, that's like, whenever I in my past have thought about, how would you describe the love of God? Like, it's that. Like, Hannah saying, look, dude, even though you want something else, like, that's okay. Like, we'll work through it. We'll get through it. I just be with me. And so, like,
that's so good, man.
Isn't
I freaking love that.
dude,
That is so good. I've got like goosebumps right now. I'm tearing up, straight up.
Dude,
That's so freaking cool.
that sounds just like Hannah too.
Oh,
man.
it is, dude. She's always been so good at just loving me.
Yeah.
She's been great at it. But I broke up with her for about a month.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was the pivotal moment, because a lot of my high school was, God send me the right woman, because of that mindset. Like, I don't want my family to be anything like what my family had been.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to preface that. I want you to finish, but I want to preface that with, I don't think it was their persons, like our parents aren't, like you said, like aren't terrible people. Like they're not evil. They're not mean. They were dealt a hand in a culture that anyone not intentionally prepared to deal with is going to break. And so expectations were high and all that kind of. So there's a lot of circumstantial stuff that led to some of that volatility and chaos.
And I don't think that you guys have. Just so we're clear, I don't think that's come across. From my perspective, I'm not sitting here thinking, "Wow, your parents must suck." You know? I'm just thinking, like, you know, there's a situation that, you know, I love my parents more than anything.
Right.
But they were not meant to be together in that moment, and things happen. My mum is now in the best relationship of her life.
Yeah.
My dad's in a relationship too. You know, whilst two people together, you want it to work. You know, like divorce is always the nuclear option. You know, it's the thing you don't want to get to, but sometimes life happens.
You're there.
You know.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, I'm sorry. I wanted to thank you for that.
Yeah,
I'm glad it's that perspective.
I'm glad that it's not like, because it does kind of, it feels like we're making them out to be like Satan himself.
And that's,
but like dad, like I mean, my dad calls me every day. He's like that.
Very intentional.
Yeah, he's very intentional. And like when we get together with him, like my dad is the kind of guy that like he's going to get on your nerves, but he's going to make you laugh so hard as he's getting on your nerves. Like,
and you guys are you're both great guys, and that doesn't happen by accident either. You know, like I very often think about, you know, growing up, the person I am now has certainly been influenced by people in my life who I think negatively of. You know. So, like, my mum's ex-partner, John, who was the abusive one, taught me so many good things. So many good things. Yep. You know, being a gentleman, being polite, you know, a good work ethic. Yep. You know, even though he was abusive and awful and just, like, terrible at times, there are situations you can be put in as a human being that can draw certain things out of you and, you know, highlight the worst of things. I do not think John is a good person, but he taught me some things that I take with me to this day. Yeah. So even though your parents may have, you know, at that stage in your lives not necessarily created, but, you know, it had brought about their relationship with you guys and everything. It brought about this negative environment. That doesn't mean that they were bad people.
Correct.
No,
absolutely.
Just want to make sure that so if that's clear, we're good.
Yeah. So you didn't want to be like that growing up, so that was very important for God to send someone like that for you.
Pretty much most of high school was me just begging God, like, hey, will you just send me the right person, and just so we can have a good family.
Were you dating a lot?
Oh yeah, so I dated. There are two big people that stick out to me in my mind when I dated. And one of them I dated my sophomore year. Some stuff went down. That's the reason I moved out of my parents' house. And then broke up. The other one that I dated, we dated about a year and a month maybe. That had been my longest relationship at that time. And that was one that I thought, like, hey, like this may be where I need to be. May need to stay with this one. And that's what I left Hannah for. I was like, okay, well, I'll just go back to this other relationship. That's fine. But so like most of high school, prayed that, broke up with Hannah for a month, didn't get back with anybody else. We went on a fishing trip down on the beach with a couple guys. Got a little crazy. Got a couple tickets that I had to pay for. I didn't get them. Someone else got them. But the dude was like, hey, you're the only one working right now. Can you just pay for the tickets?
Way.
Is that
and
why
you said
fishing?
Yes?
Was that the fishing ticket?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
I heard that.
Were you fishing illegally?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is, like, it was like $17 a person to get the permits to fish.
And how much was the ticket?
$150 a piece.
Oh boy.
That's like one of those. No. That's one of those college moments. I was like, if I had a gun, I would shoot myself in the foot.
Oh no, it will be.
But I get back from this trip, And I walked into our house. Grandmother's in the living room with her aunt, and they're like, how was everything? I was like, it's fine. It was cool. So we go up to my room, and I was like, I remember, like, complete emptiness. And it, like, I think it clicked with me. It's like, you know, you'd ask God your entire high school career, like, just send me the right person. And you get the right person. They're in your grasp. Not only are they there in your grasp, they give you multiple opportunities to stop this breakup and to stay with them. And you don't. Like, what do you really want? What is it that Chandler wants to do? Because now you can do whatever you want to do. And I was like that's breaking. Like, I feel alone. And I was like, God, I'll do whatever it takes, but I don't ever want to feel this way again. And that was it. That was the pivotal moment for me, that it was like, okay, this is where your journey with God is going to kick off. And did. Like, I called Hannah right away. It was like, hey, like, we need to be back together. I'll do whatever it takes. I'm sorry. Of course, Hannah was like loving, embracing, very forgiving. Was like, okay, we'll do this again. She tiptoed a little bit in our first couple months back together. Like, wasn't as quick to love as she had originally been, which is understanding. Like, I just broke your heart.
Yeah.
Like, that's totally understanding. But so we got back together. Of course, like, I think she helps me kick off my journey and start to get back into the swing of things at the BCM, which is like that was our Baptist chapel thing at the college.
Okay.
Led by two really great guys. They were not as keen on the your sin is what's going to make or break you in life. They were more built around like the love of God, which, I mean, Midway and them are the first couple opportunities I had seen that had actually been like, it's God's love that is fostering the relationship for you to be saved. It's not anything that you'll ever do, because you're not going to be able to do that.
Right.
We got into Midway at one point. The UPS story, Conner,
you need to share that right now.
Oh my gosh!
It'll blow his mind.
What is
David Lonzo?
David Lonzo. I can't remember his last name. Lonzo is his last name.
Yep.
He's at a UPS. I dropped a package off for our office. It's been after me and Hannah have been dating for a little bit. Dropped a package off. David Lonzo walks in. Had no idea who he was at this time.
You're like, this guy's not from Carrollton.
Yeah.
California vibes.
I'm standing behind him as he's checking his package or whatever, and I hear him talking. He's like, I'm from blah, blah, blah church. I'm the new music director or whatever his title was. And I remember the lady saying something like, my niece goes to Midway. And I was like, I was trying to get through to get my package dropped off. And, you know, I think he just brushed it off. He's just trying to drop his package off too. Let's try to make conversation. He's like, okay, I got to go. But so he drops it off and leaves. I drop mine off and leave. And dude, just like as I'm going to pull the doorknob, I'm like, how crazy would it be if we ended up at that church? And then so like 2 months later or whatever, Conner had asked me to jump in with him at the middle school. Jumped in with him. Didn't hit me. Still had not hit me that I was at the same church, because I had lost like the train of thought of like, hey, like you were going to end up. It was like some song he had sung on stage. It was his face, and I was like, "Oh my God,
UPS man!
That's the UPS guy. That's the pivotal. Like, that's the dude that was standing." And I was like, "Hey, what if I go to your church?" That's crazy. But we ended up coming here. Did a lot of great things. Went to Prague.
Prague.
Yeah, dude. Had that moment of like. That Prague was the teaching moment of you're not going to be what determines someone's salvation, someone else's salvation. You can determine your own, but you may slightly affect or change, but they have to be the one to make that decision.
Prague did this for you?
Yeah.
How?
We had I can't remember what the girl's name was. The question that we had, because we were in a group with some kids that were going through a university program there, and they were trying to learn English. They're like a very high level at this point. So one of the questions we had was like, describe your ideal heaven or your ideal paradise. And she described like what it would be like, and that there was no harming someone else. Like everyone was at peace with each other. And like to me was like, well, that's exactly what heaven is. Like, if I can just get you to believe in heaven, like, or in God, in Christ, then that's it. We got you there. So we go back to our hotel room. Me and Connor shared a bed. That we had to share a bed, and like I'm like in tears. And Connor's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Dude, like she's there. Like, she knows what she wants. She knows she wants heaven, and like we can get her there. I don't like, how do I make her want to do that?" And Connor was telling me about a book called The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis. Great book, quick read. But he's like, it's like, you can't be the one to make that decision for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
God in them will make the decision. Just plant a seed and go on. And I don't know what happened. Maybe she is there. We had a great guy there that continues to follow up. It's great
Keith,
ministry. Yeah, Keith. They do
great stuff.
Great ministry. But like, I am now in a place of peace. Like, I'll plant the seed, but you've got to be the one to let it grow, God, and you've got to let it foster. So
that's something I struggle with a lot. Is knowing when to have that conversation, and then knowing when to stop.
Yeah.
You know, because they're two very different things, and both require finesse.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Like my family, my direct family. My mum is kind of, she teeters on and off. She's told me that. She told me in the last few months that she like was listening to something on the radio, and she asked Jesus into her heart. I was like, that's amazing. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah,
But then like, but then we haven't talked about anything since then, you know, because she goes to church she goes to her local church. She's invested in that community. I think she really likes the community of it, you know. She likes being invested in that. But I know that I don't want to like push too hard too quickly, because, you know, she's in her 60s. They're in the middle of the countryside with just like, you know, their church congregation's like got 10 people in it or whatever. I'm like, maybe that's just what she needs, you know?
Yeah.
My sister, when she found out that I got saved and everything, she was naturally curious, asked me about it, and I told her, and, you know, she gave the response that I'm sure you've both heard 1,000 times. She's like, oh, well, I can never be a Christian because, you know, I've done way too many bad things. You know, I could never be good enough to be a Christian, and this that, and the other. And I'm like, that's the point. You know, like the point. The point is that you've already checked all the boxes. You know, come on in. But again, I don't want to push too hard. My dad grew up with both of his parents being Methodist, both committed Christians. They're not, you know, the kind of people who will talk to you about it all the time. You wouldn't necessarily know, but they go to church every Sunday. They're very old-fashioned. And my dad grew up in that household and just did away with it. He wasn't interested.
Wow. And
doesn't really seem to be to this day either. I've never had a conversation with him about it, ever. This is just the opportunity's never come up for me. And quite often, to be honest, if I'm sitting in a silence, or, you know, I'll hear a sermon on a Sunday about, you know, that there's going to come a day when someone's going to have a conversation with them, and it's probably going to have to be me.
Yeah.
And that scares the crap out of me.
Yeah, dude.
You know, and I've just never. I just don't know a lot of the time. I just don't know when to have that conversation with somebody, and then how to have that conversation, and then how to follow up that conversation with a different one. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, it's so hard.
It is.
It's like, what are you going? It's a feeling of, what am I going to do to make the Spirit start moving? Like, and it's, you can't. Like, it'll come where it needs to come, and it'll go where it needs to go. Right. It's like is it Prophet Elijah? Is that the stone, the coal that touched his tongue? Am I thinking Isaiah? So Isaiah, like,
Chapter 6.
God needs somebody. I need somebody to go speak to these people for me. And Isaiah's like, well, that's me. Pick me. And God's like, okay, I'm going to pick you. Great. Hey, by the way, as he's walking out of the door of heaven, they're not going to listen to you. Good luck, bud. Like, And then
you're gonna
have,
talk, but they're not gonna listen.
Yeah, so you got that. Like you're gonna talk, no one's gonna listen.
That's good.
And then you got the flip side. So you got Jonah, who's like, I'm going to say as little as possible. Let these Ninevites die, go to hell, and be done. And Jonah's like, repent, or the day of judgment will come. Everyone repents. Like, everyone.
It's like, words.
Yeah, like you got this one dude who would, like, if you put him in that situation, that spot, bam, like it's done. Like, God, I'll convert everyone in this city for you and be done with it. And you got this other dude who's like, I should have been in the other situation because I could care less if they were going to listen or not. I just want these people.
You know what? That is something I love about the Bible, though. I just love that there isn't one, like, you can't just be like, you can't go up to a Christian and be like, how do I get this person to come on board? You can't be like, go to this chapter, it tells you exactly how to do it. Because there's two very different examples there of how God can work in somebody. And I love that because, there's so many different examples and of the way that God can move in different people. And it just goes to show that there isn't one size fits all. But going back to what you were saying about how, it isn't up to me to bring somebody past the point of, giving their life to Christ or whatever that may be for them. But I don't know about you guys. I do have a fear sometimes, and I know I shouldn't, but I do, of me being like, well, what if I just haven't done enough yet? Like when does it get to the point where maybe it is my responsibility? Like, is it whilst a family member is on their deathbed? God forbid.
Right? No.
And I know they're not saved. I may have done everything I could up to that point. Is it now on me? Or is it not?
Man.
I know that's really weighty.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, there's an entire doctrine built around it in biblical theology, so it is pretty weighty. But that's so good because that was one of the. I remember having a conversation here at church where it was like, okay, if it's our responsibility, if it's Connor's responsibility to save this so and so, or to present the gospel so they can be saved, if that's my responsibility. Why am I not in the Amazon forest right now transcribing the Greek and Hebrew text to a native tongue that's never heard it? Why am I here? Like, what? There's an urgency then if it's my responsibility that I need to be. And I was having a conversation with other pastors, and I was asking myself, I was like, if that's honestly what you believe, why are you eating lunch right here, right now?
There's more important things to be doing.
If this is on me, I'm on a plane tomorrow because I don't want them looking up from the pits of hell at me and saying it's your fault.
Good God.
And
that's a horrible image, isn't it?
It's a terrible, yeah.
And so, but there's this really powerful thing about realizing, like, and that's what breaks my heart about people who say, I can't be a Christian. Like, those are perfect people. And, 6 years ago, I would have been like, of course you can't. Yeah. You're definitely not good enough. And I know Jesus, but I'll share that later. Let me show you how good I am, but I'll share Jesus later. What breaks my heart now, 6 years later, is you're not called. You're thinking, what you're really saying is, I can't be Christ, and that's okay because you're not supposed to be. But you can be a Christian because there's a Christ. And so I just wish so much, man, that people would feel that and hear that of, like, you don't have to be this perfect person. You don't have to be this perfect example or live up to these expectations. You just have to be David. And when the Spirit tells you to do something, you just have to say yes. And you'll know it. Like, you'll say yes or you'll say no. But at the end of the day, God didn't save David, who was completely obedient to the Spirit. God saved David for who David was. Or God saved Connor, who not some perfect version of Connor that's obeying every single thing he says, And so, I mean, I think we know some of those moments, but I know for a fact there have been several opportunities for me to say something to someone that was meaningful or that was even salvific or a gospel presentation style. And if God needs me to present the gospel to this person and I'm the only way they're going to be saved, I'm not worshiping that God. He's way more powerful than that. He can use someone else. He can use his own divine revelation to do that. Whatever that is. If he needs me to accomplish his mission, I'm not about to worship him. Because I can just worship
That's really
myself.
interesting.
You know, and so, but yeah, the doctrine is called exclusivism, inclusivism, pluralism, and universalism. And so it's very, I was actually studying that today. That's why I know that. But
He's rattling those off.
and so
Boom.
But there's that. Yeah, it's hard for Christians to deal with, and that's why there's doctrine around it right now. So, very interesting conversation. But on that note, Chandler, like you know these things, you know this mentality, you've been through this, you've grown a lot in this relationship with Jesus, in your knowledge, in your pursuit of the gospel, your pursuit of others. What does that look like for you now? Like you were saying, like that started in that bedroom moment. You really wanted to be committed to be a godly man. Now you're serving at Midway. You know way more about the Bible than I think I even do. And I go
Still
to school
doesn't know
for
where
it.
the toilets are, though.
Yeah.
But doesn't know where the toilets are at Midway.
Yeah,
And dude, I mean, like you're making connections like I haven't made in the scripture and stuff. And I'm only saying that because I am like in school for it. I'm not like I'm really not that good at it. But
you're just
like,
hyping me up a little too much.
You're
Like,
doing
you're
so
actually
well. You're
in
leading a
college,
life
yeah.
group and like all those kinds of things, man. Like what's that look like for you now in your story
Man, like
to be in pursuit of those things?
it's still a. I think now I'm in that time period of just like learning. Like what is it? Like I have that relationship with God. I know Christ is he's my buddy. He's my best friend. He's what I look forward to. Now it's just, hey, what are you going to pour out into someone else's life? And it's love, dude. It's a lot of hard love. And David, I give you encouragement in that sense. Like you want to know what you could do differently? Nothing. Just love him, man. Like at the end of the day, if you're intentional with that love, like they'll see there's something different there.
Oh yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah. I mean, like, and that's what draws people in. It's not, hey, we're perfect people and they want to know how to be perfect people, because we're not. And I do wish, man, there's some days I wish I told my boss this one time. I was like, I wish we could just rebrand ourselves and have a whole new religion, a completely new religion.
Dude, so yeah.
And I was like, and just
because
like
of the baggage.
yes,
Yeah.
and just like people know, hey, those are the people that when you go to them and talk to them about their God, like their God is super accepting, and like he automatically wants you on board. You don't have to change anything about yourself to start with. You just got to learn to love him and try to grow into his kingdom. And he was like, that's not his mission, man. Like he's going to do his work regardless of that.
Yeah.
People are going to get saved regardless of that. Like, so.
And you made a great point, man. Like you don't have to change anything. Like
No.
he does that for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And like what we experienced was you gotta
and that,
change it.
dude, that's a huge weight off your shoulders. Like,
Gosh.
what are you going to do to be perfect today, Chandler? It doesn't matter what you're going to do today, because you're not going to be perfect. I've got that covered for you, big guy.
Yeah.
That's the part of Jesus, dude, that I can't get enough of, man. Is that love? Like, that's the like I could go to my judgment right now and God say, hey, like you did miss this one step, and that's it. Like, I'm sorry. It's an eternity the other way. And I would say, look, if you can give me 5 minutes to just hug that man's neck and just tell him thank you for the opportunity, dude, I would like I'm crying just thinking about it.
Yeah, dude, you got me tearing up over here.
Like,
Stop, bro.
That's the part of me that just like that's where I'm at. Like I just what can I do for 15 minutes with Jesus? Like 15 minutes to just hug this guy and say, hey, like you gave me that chance to just take this burden away from me, and you gave me that peace for a few hours, a few days, a few months. Like thank you for that.
Yeah.
That's the place and that's what I want. Like people talk about that fire that you get lit with, that you just want people to experience. Like that's the fire, is like, and that's where I'm at. Like, hey, how do I get someone to understand? Like, it's okay to not be enough. It's okay to be broken. It's okay to not be in a place of perfection. Like, because you got some other dude who already was and completely, just died for you and was willing to take that physical sacrifice and that spiritual sacrifice for you and take it all. How do I explain that to someone else and put that into words? and you really can't, dude. Like, you got to let them experience that glory and that joy for themselves.
It's so, because you're so right. Because, I mean, from my personal experience, I wasn't saved because somebody pointed to a piece of scripture and read it out to me, you know. I wasn't saved because I was debating somebody, and although this does happen, you know, I didn't read Mere Christianity and it changed my mind, you know.
Yeah.
Like, again, I know there are examples of it happening, but for me, it didn't. What it was I went to my wife took me to church, and I felt something. And I told her, hey, I kind of felt something in that service. She was like, well, why don't you go have a chat with somebody about it? And I did, and never looked back. And it was just talking about stuff. And I went into a conversation with the guy. His name is John Rouleau, huge influence on my life. And I just sat down with him, and he was like, cool, what do you want to talk about? I was like, well, you know, I kind of don't feel like I'm good enough to be a Christian. He was like, cool. You're in. You know? He was like, you know, I was like, you know, well, I kind of like Marilyn Manson's music. He was like, okay.
I don't know who that is, but
You don't know who Marilyn Manson is?
no, I'm sorry.
You've got to know who Marilyn Manson is. I'm sure you do.
Give me one of the
I
songs,
don't know.
maybe.
I mean, he's put it this way. He kind of represents a lot of what the church doesn't.
Okay.
So like before I was saved, I listened to him a lot. I do still appreciate his music. I just don't like his message, so I tend not to listen to it.
Okay.
But you know, it's very like him and the church go way back.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, I sat down that day and I was like, I like Marilyn Manson. I like a lot of heavy metal. I like a lot of music at that point that, you know, represented a lot of what the church doesn't, you know. And he was like, it's okay, man. Like, you can work on that. You know, that doesn't restrict your entry, you know. Just because you listen to a certain kind of music, or, you know, you drink every so often, or whatever it may be, there is not a single thing in this moment that you can say right here, right now, that's going to stop you from being able to make that decision still, you know?
Wow.
And I was like, wow, never heard that before. Because all I've ever heard was, you know, maybe I just never even heard that. I just never heard anything other than negative, you know, people holding up signs, yelling at me in the middle of a city center, telling me that I'm going to burn in hell.
Dude.
You know, no one had ever come up to me and just been like, all of these things that you think are a problem are absolutely not. And for me, I don't know this to be a fact, but I'm pretty sure it's true. That's one of the things that separates Christ from everyone else.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like, here's your list of qualifications to be a Christian. Well, this is a blank piece of paper. That's it. It's like, what is this then? Well, that's a coffee smudge because I had a cup of coffee this morning and got really, really shaky.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you.
It's the easiest decision I've ever made, but it was the biggest one I ever made. You know?
And that's so weird, dude.
Yeah.
Like, it's completely different here. Like, from the pulpit of churches, I've heard of pastors throwing out country music CDs from their kids' cars because that's Satan. I've heard you shouldn't marry mixed races from the pulpit.
Yeah.
I've heard, like, there's so much from the pulpit I've heard of what you shouldn't be doing.
Mm-hmm.
That is just... So to hear, like, how foreign those conversations were from what you experienced, man. Like, every Sunday there was a reason why you shouldn't be, you can't be saved.
Yeah.
Every Sunday.
Or there was another box added to the checklist.
Yep.
Hey, here's your 10 commandments. Here's another one that we figured out. Here's another one we figured out.
That's so interesting because I've never experienced that.
Dude, that's the Bible culture around here, man.
Like, I really haven't.
Those little country
churches.
churches.
You know, I've seen it in documentaries and you know, like pretty, you know, like Westboro Baptist Church kind of stuff. I know that's the extreme, of course, but like, you know, that was my exposure to Christianity a lot, especially American brand Christianity, growing up in England. You know, because if there was ever a documentary about Christianity on TV, guarantee you it's probably set in America.
Yeah.
You know, in the South.
Yeah.
Because that was what I was exposed to.
Yeah. It's a crazy thing to try to fight too, and that mentality is so hard because, like you said, like you almost have to like there's this huge movement called deconstruction, which is where people are like deconstructing their faith to rebuild it, and some just destruct it and then they realize they can't rebuild it and then they just collapse. But
really,
yeah, dude, it's this crazy mentality. Whit Maxey knows a lot more than I do about it, but it's pretty nuts. And so, but that's basically what you have to do in the Bible Belt, because there's so much theology that's just so broken and wrong, that's inundated the culture so much. But I don't want to take up the conversation with that. So I'll be there forever.
One thing I was actually wanted to go back to is something you said maybe 30 minutes ago, Chandler, was about wanting now to be the best, that basically be the antithesis of what you experienced growing up. Being a great dad, being the best husband you can be, being everything that you wanted to have maybe back in your childhood, to be that in the future. And the reason I asked whether you had discovered that within you before or after you got married is because I relate to you very heavily there. But only after I met my wife, at least strongly. Because before I met Emily and before we got married, I was kind of like, I want to be an actor. I want to do this, that, and the other. I had these aspirations. As soon as I got married to Emily, I was like, you know what? Screw all that.
Dude, 100%, right?
Literally, overnight. And it's so funny. I've told this to my friends and people who I know who are like in the process of getting married. And I was like, you may not have the exact same experiences that I did, but if you have even a little bit like I did, your priorities are going to switch overnight.
Yeah. And
it's completely shifted my perspective on life. And I wonder if has you being married increased that, or has it just been something that's consistent for you?
No, I think I think it's kind of been consistent. I don't think that it's grown on me since I got like let's be like, I'll be honest, like when I married Hannah, of course things changed.
Mm-hmm.
But our relationship didn't change. Like since a year into it, like Hannah's just my best friend. That's it. Like if I had a bad day at work, call Hannah. Have a good day at work, call Hannah. I'm hungry, call Hannah. Like who you gonna call? Hannah. Like that just, it is what it is. Like Hannah is, that's where I go to now. And like, so let me back up. Like I also have learned from my mistake of like putting women into a place of making them my everything. Like, and Matt Chandler made a good point of this, is like, if you put your wife or your spouse in that point of they're my everything, like you losing them can break your relationship with God. So you got to be careful with that. Don't make them into your false idol. So like I just want to make that clear, is like I love my wife and she has helped me along my walk with God, but God has made my walk with God. And I will, like, all day I will demonstrate my love to her the way that he demonstrates his love to the church, just like it says to do biblically. Like that is it. And I will love her with all my heart, but I know at the end of the day that God is above it, and that regardless. Now that's not to say that I don't love Hannah with everything, but no, like my thought process on that has still been the same. Like I'm still going to be the best husband that I can be for Hannah, and I'm going to be the best dad that I can be one day for my kids. And I think the only thing that it has changed marriage-wise from that aspect is I really want kids. And
yeah, man.
And Hannah, like Hannah's
Where's
not.
she at there?
She's not for it, dude.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, it is. It is. Like she's like, hey, let's just give it a little bit of time. Let's just wait. And I'm like, okay, all right. Me
What
like
about now?
Googling. Okay, so it is illegal to replace your wife's birth control with mints. That's against the law. You can't do that. Like
that's, I didn't know that.
Connor said, well, two things. Number one, we're having kids. Number two, I'm probably going to be going to prison. So
that's like the opposite for me and Cass.
Kess wants kids and you don't want kids.
Well, yeah. I want to get through. Like, there's always another stage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's always tomorrow. There's always. Let me get through my undergrad. Now I'm thinking, let me get through my master's, and then we'll be in a good.
Then let me get settled at this job.
And then let me get another house, and then like it'll continue to go. What about you guys? Like,
dude, Emily and I were literally talking about this last night. like last night.
Wow.
Very occasionally. I say very occasionally. It's normally like maybe once every couple of weeks. Emily and I will go to bed, and then we'll just be there for like 3 hours talking about stuff. You know, and we'll just keep going, and then we look at the clock and we're like, oh crap,
it's time to go.
You know. And last night was one of those. We were just talking. We were talking about what we were going to do for our anniversary on Monday, and then we got on the subject of for our 5-year anniversary, we want to go to Montreal because that's what our original honeymoon was going to be. Before I realized that if I left the country, I wouldn't be able to get back in. I just did a Google one day. I was like, oh, we need to change our plans. So we ended up going to Newport in Rhode Island, but I digress. We got onto that subject, and then she was like, oh yeah, because then we also want to go to like, she wants to do this Alaska trip. Emily is huge on national parks. She wants to hit every national park in America. She loves that, and she really wants to do Alaska because there's like 6 there. But obviously Alaska is ginormous. Yeah. She's like, we'll go to Alaska for like a month. I'm like, cool, that sounds great. Also, that will cost a lot of money, which is fine, and we can have that as a goal. And then I kind of diverged into saying, but that is something that I might want to put on hold until later in life, because right now we're paying off our student loans aggressively. We're doing Financial Peace University. Like, I would say 2/3 of our money every single month goes towards our student loans, paying that off.
Wow. Yeah.
We're on track right now to get it paid off in 2024, which is like 17 years in advance. Once we get that paid off, because right now we're not living how we want to live. We love our lives, don't get me wrong. We're very blessed. Yep. But we have aspirations beyond living with our in-laws in a basement. Once we get that done, I want a house and I want to have kids.
Yep.
Because by then I'm going to be like 29, 28. And Emily's a couple years younger than me. She'd be like 25, 26. And last night I was kind of like, look, that $10,000 to $15,000 that would probably go towards that Alaska trip, I might want to put down on a house.
Yeah.
That might be my priority because I want to have kids.
Yeah.
So, and she agrees, she's in a very similar place, but right now she's also kind of like, well, I just want to have time with us.
Yeah.
And since right now, we're not having the us time that we really want, i.e. we don't have our own home to go to away from our in-laws and stuff every day. She's kind of in a headspace right now where she's like, I'm going to want that once we move out of here. And then I might want kids.
Yeah.
Which is understandable.
Yeah.
But it's certainly like an interesting area where I'm kind of like you, where I'm like, okay, well, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Even,
what are you waiting on?
Even though right now I wouldn't want a kid in my in-laws' basement, I'm emotionally ready.
Yeah.
Just not necessarily kind of. If she said tomorrow, oh, let's have a kid, I might actually be like, well, actually, no. Let's maybe not do that right now. But
it's very interesting for young married people to think about. And I don't want to exclude our audience, but like, anyway, it's just interesting to think about some of those weird things that happen once you begin that stage of having to have a negotiation instead of, no, I'm doing this today because I do whatever I want.
Dude, all of my friends back in England, apart from one, are single. And just the very idea of me getting married to them was crazy. Because the average age of marriage in England is nowhere near as low as it is here in the South.
Dude, that's one thing about Prague that had kind of thrown us off, was Connor was married when we went to Prague. And they were like, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'd only been married like 3 months.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Peace out.
Because
week-long trip across the world, yeah.
Man, that's a great honeymoon. All right, well, I'm leaving in a couple days to go to another country.
But yeah, like in Europe, because obviously, like, it's not heavily Christian anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
You have less of an incentive a lot of times to get married.
Yeah.
And it's less of a cultural thing than it is out here. So when I came out here and Emily's like, oh yeah, like I know a bunch of people who are married already have kids. I'm like, they're like 23 years old. She's like, yeah, that's pretty normal. Like, okay. Which, I was going to say, what you were talking about earlier, Chandler, about you know, is it what piece of scripture is it where it talks about, you know, a husband should be as devoted to his wife as he is to the church, as like, you know, he should love his wife as God loves the church.
I'm paraphrasing. So, but it's not.
I can't remember it off the top of my head. Anyway,
is it Paul?
I think so.
I think it's Paul that says it.
Yeah. Either way,
Ephesians.
I was thinking while you were talking how foreign a concept what you were talking about earlier about how you love your wife with all your heart and all your body and all your soul. You know, that isn't foreign, but that there is still someone above that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That whilst your wife is, you know, your best friend here on earth, there is still something that if push came to shove is still above her.
It's that 15 minutes, dude, with JC. That's it.
Yeah, because if you are given that opportunity, you know what choice you're going to make.
Yeah,
right.
I want to do.
Yeah, and to somebody who isn't saved, that, speaking from experience, would just be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You know? How can your wife not be the most important thing in the entire universe to you?
Yeah.
And I think about it, I'm like, it's a pretty crazy concept when you think about it.
It is. It puts it into perspective.
Yeah.
Like the aspirations of love that you have, of what you want it to be, like what you're really striving for that to be, what it to look like. And especially if you can actually see it in someone else. Like if you see a husband serving his wife consistently, or, you know, you see the relationship just flourishing and things like that, and then you look at the man, you're like, he loves God more than that. Like, that's kind of crazy to think of. Yeah, it definitely puts it in perspective.
I feel like you've got to have that, though. Just like you've got to have, like if there's a listener out there that one day hears this, like there's no such thing as a soulmate. Like, there are people that God puts in your life, and like maybe this should be the person that you're spending your life with. This is a good candidate, but there's not one individual that God made just for you to marry one day. Like, so there's not a chance of someone taking that person and then you not ever finding happiness. Like, you can be happy with another person.
Yes.
And I want to make sure that that's clear. But like, I also want to make sure that like you put God above that spouse. And the reason for that is like, if you've made your spouse out to be everything that you need them to be in your life, like, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like, Hannah answers most of my phone calls. Like, I've missed about 5 of hers right now. So
did you tell her you were going to be here?
I did, but
okay.
I said that I was like, Connor said we'd probably be done by 7:30. Not that we need to cut it short. I'm just saying, like, we get out of here, there might be a loud sound coming from my phone. But the reason I say that is like, so she answers most of my phone calls. Like, there's still a day where she doesn't, and I'm just like, work has beaten me mentally. Like, and to put that pressure on that other person, like, you've got to always be my rock. If you're not my rock, then I'm going to crack and crumble, and that's your fault. Like, that's not realistic. Like, God needs to be that rock for you. Like, if Hannah doesn't answer, like, bam, then I'm praying, like, immediately. And even some days after me and Hannah get off the phone, bam, I'm praying. God, I'm weak, and I'm so destroyed right now, and I just need you for a few moments. Can you just fill me up? Can you just give me something to go off of? Because, like, that, to me, is one of the things that can break a Christian relationship, is that you have made your spouse out to be your God. Yeah. And you've put God below them and said that you're my rock and you're my foundation. And they're human, and they're going to fail you. They're going to. And you've just set them up for a large failure. That's the reason that I think it's very important to make that distinction. Distinction. Yeah.
Distinguishation.
This is about
That's really that you know, that's food for thought right there.
Agreed.
Because I'm hold my hands up to be the first one to say that. Like, I'm guilty of that sometimes. You know.
Oh yeah.
Of like not going to God. Sometimes, like, you know, like you said, like putting that pressure on Emily sometimes. Yeah. Putting that pressure on other relationships that I have. So that's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
But hey, I don't want to be the reason your wife gets angry at you. So
no, she'll be all right. As soon as I explain it to her, like, hey, just ran a little bit over, we'll be okay.
But hey,
so,
you know what though? I think I think this could be a good spot to start to wrap things up. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think that's
Man, it's been good, dude.
Yeah, I'm glad that y'all had me on here. It has been fun. It's
Yes.
not. I mean, you don't very often get to give your full story and break it down. So
Yeah.
thank you for questions, Dave. Like, it's been fun talking. So
No, we love it. I mean, look, I like that. Every episode's been different so far.
Yep.
And that's kind of what I'm hoping to keep going so far, to keep going into the future. Sorry, and so we really appreciate you coming on and chatting. I know that like some of the things you talked about aren't easy. If anyone is listening to this and like I said, has any questions, any thoughts, any feelings, if you've made it this far, I know it's probably going to be one of the more longer ones. Thank you, first of all. But yeah, send us a message, write in, however it is, even if you just see me in church, like let me know. Same with Connor, same with Chandler.
yeah.
Where do you serve, Chandler? You said
So I'm mainly with middle school boys.
right.
So I'm over. That's why I couldn't find the bathroom in here because I'm over there. And that's my little section over there. But that's mainly where I'm at. But yeah, I'm an open book. So if you
And
got a
also, you guys
question-
have the Discord.
Yes, we have a Discord life group. Man, I had a
game a
chance
lot.
for a plug and I didn't even plug it. Yeah, we have a Discord life group. We do game a lot. We meet on Tuesdays 8:30. Anybody that is online that wants to stop by, you're more than welcome to. Just hit me up and I'll ask Connor how to send you the link for that because I forget to.
What games are you playing right now?
Right now, dude, Lost Ark just came out on Steam.
I've heard about this.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
I've had a lot of
they're
people
tearing it up right now.
Obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Big MMO.
There's that part of me that's still a Southerner that just loves guns. So I've got to do. They were like, you can have guns, and I was like, yes. And they were like, you can have a minigun, and I was like, oh yes.
Really
Like,
big gun.
yeah, like I felt like the Mandalorian. Like weapons are my religion. So
This is the way.
yeah.
What
We're
about
also on YouTube, and so I just wanted to plug that too. If you're watching on YouTube, you can jump in the comments, and that way
Yes.
we can respond to some of that stuff. So.
Yeah, especially now that we have video.
Yep.
So we'll try and get there. Is there anything else you wanted to say? Wanted to add, Connor?
No, dude, it was fun. With this is a unique episode where our stories really intersect.
Yeah.
And so you
A
being
lot.
vulnerable made me be vulnerable and uncomfortable at times, and I think that's a good thing for conversation because this is what was kind of crazy. I want to mention it earlier, but like the church right now is experiencing 60% divorce rates, and it has been for a couple decades.
As in
Yeah.
people, the congregation within the church?
Within the church.
60%?
That's as of like 5 years ago, that was the stat. And so,
Wow.
60%. And so, but it was also like 50% like 20 years ago. So now what you're seeing come out of the church and into like adulthood are those individuals, those kids who were on the front lines of some of that more divorce mentality, like Chandler and myself. And so dealing with that's tough and it's not easy. And so I want to encourage anyone who's listening that may, maybe in that situation or maybe experience that. Like if you have questions or if you have comments or you just want to share your story, like, yeah, reach out because that's definitely one of the reasons why we do the podcast is to just open up a door for conversations about this life we call the standard paradox. So,
Yes. On that note, thank you so much for being here. I hope you, wherever you are, have a wonderful day, afternoon, evening, night, whatever it is, and a great week, great rest of the year. We got a long way to go, but still.
short time to get there.
All right. Thank you so much, guys, and God bless.
Peace out.
See ya.